What's going on, people? It's your boy, Renegade Operative, and we are once again jumping into the minefield that is X, Twitter, Zitter, Discourse, whatever you want to call it, Twixter. And we're talking about the idea of microtransactions in Capcom games currently and how they've been coordinated. Now, this is nothing new. This is nothing I haven't talked about before, i.e., Devil May Cry 5 and how that had a bunch of orbs and microtransactions and people trying to pass the game off and say that it's shit because you could buy some red orbs early and not knowing that the Faust hat was the easy to win button to get orbs. It seems that we're still having this problem with Dragon's Dogma 2, and I wanted to sort of talk about this and maybe educate you guys as to what my perspective is on Capcom microtransactions. So once again, there's this guy here that's saying Dragon's Dogma, more like drags on my wallet. Jesus fucking Christ, Capcom. Refund it at about 118 minutes. God, this sucks. Paying for fast travel, paying for character editing, paying for revive stones. Bro, it's a $100 game. What the fuck? And as you can see, mostly negative reviews from a myriad of reasons, not just the fact that there is these microtransactions in the game, but also there is a lot of things going on PC, supposedly with the performance, with other factors involved, and people are not liking Dragon's Dogma 2 on the PC, even though I find it quite hilarious that the critic reviews are way higher for this game on PC, but the audience reviews are way lower. I digress though. I believe that an experience on PC sometimes is like, it varies from person to person, but that's neither here nor there. Now, here's the stuff that is present in the Dragon's Dogma 2 expansions and all this other stuff with the micros. And you see, you got camping kits, you have some rift stones that you could buy, you have wake stones, you can obviously redo your character, and you have rift stones as well. It's the standard microtransaction affair. Now, when we get into more tweets, you have this where it says like every apathetic response to microtransaction paved the way for execs to get more comfortable and complacent with each release. There's a reason why execs love talking about microtransactions in quarterly reports. They'll continue to toe the line until even single player games look like most pay to win games. And you have Mighty Keith that says, you shouldn't be okay with people lying or exaggerating points about a topic just because you are on their side of the argument. And mostly, when people disagree with microtransactions, they are mostly worried that what this lady is saying is that they will toe the line and they will turn into pay-to-win single-player games. And I believe that is a level of egregiousness when it came to how Capcom coordinated microtransactions so far. Now, I'm not going to say that Capcom was always perfect with their on-disc DLC practices and a lot of bullshit they pulled in the past with like finding out Jill Valentine was on the disc for Marvel vs. Capcom, and then ultimately doing the Ultimate version and stuffing all those characters there. I know there was a tsunami in the middle of that, but they still kind of nickeled and dimed characters with Shuma and Jill, and a lot of people were kind of up in arms about that. You can go back in the past with like Street Fighter X Tekken and the gems and how people kind of found that unfavorable. So Capcom is not really below doing these little practices that kind of annoy people or piss them off in the past. But the thing is, now Capcom is now revered as a cool, studio these days compared to the past, and they've tried to find their way back into the hearts of the gamer, and I think for the most part they have succeeded with that. And the way they do micros is absolutely fine to me. Like, okay, if we go back to DMC5, you had the Faust hat, which was the pay-to-win button. You could get a lot of orbs that way by using that item to farm orbs, get millions of them, use them as weapons. It just was right and perfect. And beforehand, before that was found out, people thought that this was all pay-to-win garbage. And it seems to be this sort of clashing issue of people's ideals against microtransactions, and then other people who are like, well, if you play the game long enough, you will get said item or said quest or said thing that will unlock what you need. I believe that these microtransactions are for the folks who are casual gamers who don't want to grind. They don't want to spend copious amounts of hours playing the game, even though I know that's like very counterintuitive to what a video game is, but they don't want to spend all these hours playing on like professional modes and Resident Evil, or they don't want to do multiple playthroughs of unlocking all these items, so they want to pay early and get all this stuff in advance. And I don't think that the playthrough changes on either side of the equation outside of the fact that you are unlocking something earlier. The hardcore people who will binge through hundreds of hours, do like multiple playthroughs in a video game, they will still get access to all of this stuff. You know, Keith even said before in a post, I don't have it quoted right now in front of me, but he said he played like 45 hours of Dragon's Dogma 2, and he said you could go through the game and not even realize or witness the microtransactions are there because everything is available in-game. The main debate I see people sort of droning on about is the fact that, oh, fast travel is not unlocked immediately. And let's see, let's go on here. Let's see, I'm gonna skip these real quick. I just want to go to this one. Where Blaine Smith, he says, Twitter bullshit. You have to pay to change your character's appearance in Dragon's Dogma 2. In reality, the first city you visit within 30 to 60 minutes, if you rush, you could buy the item next to nothing. I saw people also say you could get the fast travel kit for next to nothing relatively quickly as well. These items are in the game, and I said there's certainly some issues like the cloud save issue replacing the manual one on PC, but I saw a guy ranting saying that he had to pay for fast travel in Dragon's Dogma 2 with real life currency, even though he wasn't forced to pay for anything. They told us forever ago that you could buy this stuff with in-game currency. People don't pay attention. You got people making fun of it, saying, people be like, what the fuck with these microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2? They haven't done the same shit in any other Capcom game recently, like Resident Evil 4, where it's like, oh, here's, you know, you see the micros for exclusive tickets, where you get these tickets after spending spindles, I believe, but you can get them earlier in advance. And it's like, for the hardcore person, they're not going to give a shit about any of this stuff. They're going to try to hardcore grind through the game. They're going to try to play through professional. They're going to try to do this and that and get everything gradually. They're not going to care. Now, there could be an argument that could be made. Oh, well, you know, why can't I get this stuff earlier with the in-game currency and things like that? I understand that totally. And I do believe these practices should be brought into the equation, but I do believe they're over-exaggerated. It's like, okay, the hardcore person having like everything early in advance, even though they could earn it, would make the game too easy anyway. I personally want a challenge. I don't want all the upgrade tickets like just doled out to me. I want a challenge. So if I want to play professional multiple times, if I want to go through the side quests multiple times to get exclusive upgrade tickets, then I would do that. I don't want the game just handed to me on a silver platter, but this is what this sort of situation entails. It's like for the lazy gamer, the casual gamer, I don't have nothing but a week to play through this. I'm gonna buy all the exclusive tickets anyway, and I'm going to enjoy the playthrough in my experience that way. As long as this stuff is optional and it doesn't bother me, as long as it's not like a Shadow of War where initially they cut out a mission because you had to grind to get through it, you had to pay to get through it. I believe that is when it is bullshit. They are locking out content within your game that you have to pay for. But if it's an item I could find within the world and I just get it earlier, green herbs, like fucking green herb charms, right? It's like, I just don't care. I could find that, buy it with the in-game currency, and it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Who is this for? It is for the casuals. It is for the casual gamer. If you're the hardcore person, you're not gonna care. Alright? And we talked about this before numerous times. Folks are saying, oh, the Dragon's Dogma 2, the way they have these microtransactions listed is gonna be the death of gaming. It's the death for the gamer. And then people turn around and be like, Resident Evil 4 was Game of the Year, and they never even called out these micros that were in that game once. Unlock everything in Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2 Remake, or Resident Evil 3. You could just play through the game and get all that shit, right? It's like, and the challenge is mitigated by getting it earlier anyway, which is why I never go for it. You have other people reporting they have like 100 hours in Dragon's Dogma 2 and they have not needed a single microtransaction. Character changes, camping gear, wake stones, rift crystals, port stones, etc. All of this is attained in the game by just playing. Literally, just play the game and you get all this stuff. And the final point I'm going to home in here is a summary from Orbital Quack, and he says, you know, it is blind rage. It's like people didn't see this the first time and it's now bubbling to the surface. It kind of bubbled to the surface a little bit with DMC5 and now it's just like at critical peak. And I believe that's a correlation of the mostly negative reviews feeding in with the PC version as well, so there is like some pushback there just because, and I understand that it's not the first time Capcom did this. It won't be the last time Capcom does this with optional microtransactions, and that's what they are, optional at the end of the day. If you don't feel like grinding at the end of the day, and it will bring up a debate of should they exist? Well, here's the thing. As a hardcore gamer, someone that can unlock these things ahead of time, and someone who doesn't have to worry about this because it's all in-game and they're unnecessary to me, I don't need them. If you correlate this to, oh, you gotta pay to win in a single player game, what are you winning against other than AI generated enemies who you probably could beat the crap out of after some copious amounts of grinding? Like, this is not a competitive skill-based game online where you pay to win and you get like a better gun than someone else. That's when it's really egregious as a microtransaction. That's when it's really bullshit as a micro, because it's like you are in an online setting and you have a competitive advantage against someone else. A human, an actual human. Imagine if Dragon's Dogma 2 had something akin to Souls games where you can evade someone and you'll have like better items than them and you'll completely abolish, destroy, and dismantle them as soon as they jump into the game. It's not the same shit. It's not even in the same ballpark because they don't have a feature like that in Dragon's Dogma 2. They have the pawn system, but they're still NPCs. They're not like human control enemies. There's no PvP, therefore there's nothing to really get into arms about at all over the situation. It's just being at a higher level early, and everyone's gonna be like high tier, high levels anyway when the game is out for like a couple of months, and you'll see people have done it without micros and you will not notice. He says, once again, this is nothing new, especially for Japanese developed games. They offer the option, but they're usually not needed. From what I'm hearing, it's the same as Dragon's Dogma 2. It's fake outrage, and I agree with that 100%. It's like, I think it comes down to people seeing the Japanese sort of side as their pariahs, and when they see something like this, they're ready to run the gamut and go at it. But you see it in Devil May Cry, the orbs weren't a problem, Faust Hat. You see it in Monster Hunter World. I'm sure you can unlock all this stuff, and it was also in the Tales of Arise franchise or series of games, or this game in particular, where it's like you can pay for Glod and you could also level up your character. But once again, going back to the point I said earlier, it's only bad when you are locked out of significant portions of story within the game. You can't progress in the game until you buy this paywalled item. But if it's not like that, if it's the reverse where you can progress without it, it's not a big deal. if you're not playing a competitive type of game where you're grinding and getting levels to fight the opposition in PvP, you're getting better guns, if it's nothing like that, it's just a single player experience, there's nothing competitive about it whatsoever. And again, you're just going against AI, CPU controlled opponents, and you're grinding, whether natural or artificial. It doesn't matter how you're getting there, you're still getting there with the items that be. Therefore, once again, it's a nothing burger. I think folks need to assess and calm down before actually having this overreaction to news, updates, and information, and pretending it's not in the game in the first place when it really is. My name is Renegade Operative. I am signing out. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. Who was this for? Sort of correlating and discussing and sort of deciphering where my stance will lie as a hardcore person who really never needed any of these micros in the first place to get like cool weapons, items, level ups, or abilities in current Capcom games, in current Resident Evil games, unlock alls where I have like all the shit anyway. I have like the full platinum in Resident Evil 3 and I had everything. Infinite launchers, had the whole store unlocked before I lost my save, everything. I had it all. And I only earned that by playing the game like a normal human being. I'm getting the fuck out of here. See you guys later. Peace. Oh, and I'll add this little bit at the end. If Capcom ever does get complacent in the future to redo or relive the glory days of on this DLC and locking away people's content and cutting out like story sections that were significant portions, even though I believe that Separate Ways was worth the $10, and for that controversy alone, I would say there were some ignorant folk who believed that Separate Ways was available as content on Resident Evil 4 initially on the GameCube when it wasn't. It didn't come into the PS2 version, and we had to pay more money to access that content, like stuff like expansions or whatever, within the price range of like $10, $20. That does not bother me because that's all new content being built from the ground up. But if they do cut out already established content in the story, let's say they cut Resident Evil 4 remake in half and they decided to sell it piecemeal and say you won't get the other half until you pay like another $60, that's when stuff gets really egregious. And if it does get to that point ever at all, that's when I think it's reasonable to call it out. It's still all about the context and assessing what exactly is happening. It's a fine line between either calling out pertinent, real and critical issues and yelling over information that makes you look like the village idiot when it's already been established to be just what it is, a nothing burger. So there's the fine line between both situations. Some people yap about nothing. Some people can yap about issues that they should address. If you're complaining about the cloud save in Dragon's Dogma 2 or the issues with the performance, then that is totally valid. But this one, not so much.